ultimately important for you to look at your goals, truly what you want to do in your life, and then look at the people who you spend the most time with in your life and figure out if that lines up. All right, what's happening? What's happening, guys? It is Monday, March 23rd, 2020, and we've got a good one for you this morning, a good topic, a good show, one that I think everybody can benefit from. I'm going to get this shared out real quick, and we're going to jump right into it. We're going to talk a little bit about your blueprint this morning. Whose thinking are you thinking? Where do the things that you think really come from? And I can't tell you how important this is right now, as it stands in the world today, as crazy as things are, and as many different thoughts as we have that can take us down very bad roads. You know, if we don't understand kind of the things that we think and what we've got going on inside of our own heads, it can get really interesting these days. And so, you know, I want to share with you guys some of the research that I've done, some of the personal exploration that I've done to try and, you know, understand this topic. And, you know, I hope that this will be helpful for you guys. So there's a couple of things that we're going to cover this morning. Where do the things that you really think come from? The different blueprints that exist in the different parts of your life. And then last but not least, how to reprogram your blueprint and how that will impact your life. So I want to jump right into this, and I want to talk about where all of these things that we think come from. So I think that, you know, the most important thing to realize is that every single person in this world has a blueprint, and that blueprint is formed by a variety of different things. I think that it starts with, you know, your personal blueprint, how you were raised, what your parents taught you, you know, how all of that type of stuff looks in your life. And then, you know, your professional blueprint. So the things that you've got going on, maybe with your job right now, maybe your career, maybe things are tough for your specific type of business. And you're going to have some interesting feelings about that, right? You're going to have some feelings that make you unsettled, that tell you certain things. And I want to explain to you where some of those things come from. And last but not least, and this is especially important for those people out there that are in the industry that I am in, I want to explain to people, you know, how your industry blueprint works and what that means, and kind of, you know, how that has an impact on your life, how it has an impact on your thoughts and all that kind of stuff, right? So the tactical steps to reprogramming your blueprint after you get through understanding the blueprint is going to be very interesting to you guys. But first, let's talk about personal blueprint. First, I want to say good morning to some people. What's happening, Trisha? My wife's on here. Good morning, babe. Jeff, Bob, Jared, Lydia, Denise, Julie. Good morning, guys. Thank you for jumping on here. So your personal blueprint, guys, starts from when you are a small child, right? And these types of things, your personal blueprint, they are wired into you from the time way before you even remember, right? And so, you know, I want to make sure that you guys understand exactly where these things come from, and, you know, how you can recognize these things that are kind of placed as seeds in your brain that tend to come up later on in life. They tend to kind of, you know, come back and bite you in some cases later on in life. And I want you guys to be able to recognize that, because when you recognize that, you'll start to think in ways that you have a little bit more control over your thoughts. And that's a really, really, really good thing. So your personal blueprint, guys, starts with your family, you know, your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, etc. Everybody around you when you are a small child all the way up to now when you might be an adult. Maybe you guys are still younger out there that are watching. But all of these things that you hear as a child, as an adult, all of those things will come back to create new thoughts later on in life. And I prove this quite frequently by using a few examples. And I talked about this on the live stream that I did while I was walking yesterday morning. I was out for a little stroll, and I talked about this yesterday morning, but I want to reiterate it because I think it's that important. So when we are children, we are told a couple of phrases. There's a whole bunch of them, but the one that I always used is, if I were to say a penny saved is, you would say a penny earned. But in reality, it's not. It's just a penny, isn't it? But those types of things formulate our thoughts. They really form the thoughts that we have later in life. It's one of those things that you hear all the time, right? You know, the second example I used yesterday, and again, I'll give the caveat here. I'm not against the dairy industry. I'm not against cows. I'm not against milk. But when we are children, we are given milk by our parents. I would say that, you know, a majority rather of parents give their children milk, cow's milk. And so we drink that cow's milk, and most people end up drinking it their entire lives. We put it in our coffee, we put it on our cereal, we put it all kinds of places to consume. But if you were taken straight to the cow and you were shown where that milk comes from, would you be as trustworthy? And so this is proof that the blueprint, the things that you were influenced by as a small child, actually make a difference in how you think and what you believe and what you trust and what you don't trust. So, you know, a lot of people in this country are taught that people with money are very risky. They're not trustworthy. They got their money somehow, you know, in a way that's dishonest or something like that. A lot of people are taught that. And so as they become adults, they start to think that something is wrong with people that have money, or that money is no good. They're programmed in a certain way. And so that personal blueprint of yours, especially in times like this, when your thoughts are all over the place, you have all kinds of things to be worried about, concerned about, stressed out about. Maybe your family members or your friends, these people that I'm talking about that have programmed you, maybe they're dragging you in a negative direction. That personal blueprint is something you have to identify and make sure that you are figuring out whose thinking it is that you're thinking. That personal blueprint will matter to you big time in moments like this. In moments like this, every thought that you have matters, because every thought that you have can derail you or send you further down the tracks in a positive direction. So it's very important that we understand where these thoughts are coming from. The personal blueprint is a great example of that. The way that you were raised, the way that you were influenced, and the way that you continue to be influenced in your personal life is what makes up that personal blueprint. Your professional blueprint. So let's say, you know, right now you're having some troubles at work, or, you know, the things that are going on in the world are causing some added stress professionally. Let's say that that's the case, because it's going to be the case for at least some people right now. Your professional blueprint is going to be built by your experiences that you have had in these types of situations in the past. So you are going to judge your current situation based on your past situation, aren't you? You are going to judge how you are being taught things based on how you were taught things in the past. You're going to judge the people around you based on the experiences that you have had with other people around you. You may think that the way you think that things should be done are the way that your very first boss taught you to do things. That may or may not be the case. Maybe that first boss was not the person that you want to be following, right? But the reality is, you have a blueprint that is formed professionally from the time that you got your first job until now. If your first leader was a bad leader, then you're probably going to view leaders in a certain way until somebody else proves that person wrong. And I would just tell you to be aware of those thoughts. Be aware of the things that you're thinking that are a result of someone else, not of the people or person that you're working with right now. They are the result of something else. In 2008, for those of you who went through that downturn in the economy, you may have a professional, a feeling professionally about the way that this is going to go as a result of that. Here's what I want you guys to remember. Every situation is different. Every scenario is different. Every thing that you're going to go through right now is different than what you went through in 2008. Now, history can give us some guidance. It can give us, some direction on how to handle some of these things. It can certainly be a great resource, but you cannot judge every situation just based on historical data, because every situation is a little bit different. So what I'm telling you is use that information to your advantage, but don't become obsessed over it. Still allow yourself to think. Still allow yourself to be aware of what is going on, because what is going on right now is going to be unique. It's going to be different than what you've been through in the past. It's important to understand where these thoughts that you have come from. So last but not least, we're going to talk about your industry blueprint. So, I'll use our industry in construction. People, tend to think that things are supposed to be done a certain way, or that, a blue collar worker is supposed to act a certain way, or, whatever that is. There's influences that are going to try and drag you in a certain direction within your industry. The banking industry or financial services industry has certain things that are assumptions in that industry. The same in real estate, the same in the restaurant industry, the same with bartenders. There are assumptions that are made that people will try to mold you into that industry blueprint, right? How has that industry treated you? How has that industry tried to mold you? These things are important to recognize and understand so that you can be the best version of yourself, not the best version that someone else wants to make you, but the best version of you, your own thoughts, your own actions, your own opinions. This is why I always caution people to be careful watching the news, because the news has a way of telling you a story that makes you believe it. And I'm not saying that all the news is false or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that the news has a way of telling you things and repeating it over and over and over again that makes it highly likely that your brain will believe that as a fact based on exactly how they told the story. And that is a perspective of what happened. It's a perspective of the truth. I could go through 5 or 6 stories that I've pointed out to my wife, my friends, my business partners, the people that we work with, that have been, if you actually research the full story, this is in the past handful of days here, if you actually research the whole story, they picked out one little snippet, they told you that part of the story, and they made you feel a certain way. But the reality of that story is a little bit different, and a little bit different in these days, in these times where everybody's a little bit emotionally sensitive. Those little changes make a huge difference. And so I would tell you to do your research on the things that you hear, especially right now, because it is imperative that you stay tuned in to reality, to your own thoughts, not to those of a news channel or your friends or other people that are feeding you. There's constantly information being fed to you right now. And that stuff, it can be dangerous. It can really, really be dangerous if you don't get a handle on it. All right. So here's the tactical steps to reprogramming that blueprint. So we've identified kind of how that works to get to the point of having a blueprint. How do you reprogram that blueprint? I would tell you that for me, there's 4 things that I try to think about all the time and make sure that I am doing so that I can maintain my own thoughts, my own identity, as opposed to constantly relying on that blueprint that has been assigned to me or given to me. Number 1, question and challenge things often. So, don't allow yourself to just exist on autopilot. It's encourage questioning at every twist and turn, challenge things. Live in a very conscious state is what I would say. Don't just go through and live in a subconscious state, because that stuff's never going to pay you. If you just go along living in a subconscious state, it just is not going to pay you. It's not going to do good things for your life. You have to live in a state of being aware. So question and challenge things often is number one. Number two, and this is one that I preach on all the time. I'm going to keep preaching on it and keep preaching on it probably forever. But evaluate and upgrade your circle. So the people that you interact with, from your own family to those you text with to those that you follow on social media. I am going through my Instagram today, and I'm cutting back the number of people that I follow, because I feel like right now I need information from specific sources, from specific influences. And what's happening is the world of social media right now, because everybody's at home, is getting even more noisy, right? Because everybody's posting, everybody's sharing. And so I want to quiet down that noise on social media and get the right energy, the right information, the right influence into my brain, so that I can continue thinking the way that I want to think. So just keep that in mind. If you are constantly surrounded by and consuming positivity and good energy, then that's probably what's going to vibrate through your life. If you are constantly surrounded by people who are conspiracy theorists and negative, and they think, certain ways that don't align with the way that you want to think or the way that you do think, then I would distance myself from those people, because eventually you will start to think exactly like those people too. So question and challenge things often, evaluate and upgrade your circle. So the people that you interact with right now is more important than ever. Number three, take quiet time every single day. The power of quiet time in your life is something that so many people will overlook. We are constantly getting pinged by these devices. We've constantly got notifications coming up on our computers, on our phones, everywhere that is distracting us from the things that are most important. And so what I would tell you is, especially right now, it is important to take that quiet time. I got up early this morning so that I could get some for myself, because I feel myself a little bit off. To be honest with you guys, I did not want to do this show this morning, because I was just sitting here feeling a little bit off. But what I have done to reprogram my blueprint is I have forced myself to understand that when I am in that moment that I don't want to do something that is part of my routine, that creates rhythm in my life, that whether I want to do it or not, and when I don't want to do it, I know that it's more important than ever to do that. But I got up early this morning to give myself the quiet time to kind of quiet things down in my life, to give me some perspective. And I promise you, today will be a better day as a result of that, because I took the time to get up a half an hour early. I'll gain that half an hour back in sleep tonight or some other time. But I knew that I needed that time. I needed that quiet time this morning to get myself organized. I got my planner filled out perfectly this morning, and that's going to create rhythm for my day and for my week. So it's really important for you to take quiet time every single day. So question and challenge things often, evaluate and upgrade your circle, and take quiet and alone time every single day to just quiet things down in your life and unscramble your mind from all the things that we've got going on in the world. And last but not least, this was in the title of this video, whose thinking are you thinking? There's a friend of mine, Frank Sell, said this a long time ago. Whose thinking are you thinking? Always remember this, guys, that every single thought that you have going through your brain has been placed there from some influence, right? From the time that you were a baby, the things that you heard, the things that people have told you, who put those ideas in your brain? It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they're wrong, but really think about, where did they come from? Did they come from you? Did they come from a book? Did they come from your parents? Did they come from the person that trained you at work? Did they come from your first boss? Ask yourself this question often, and you will start to see the patterns of how you think, of why you think what you think, and how those thoughts pay you dividends or take away from your life. And so that's the most important thing to me, is for you guys to walk away from this just not going through today on autopilot. It's really important for us to understand what we're thinking, where it came from, and how that impacts our life. These thoughts are powerful things, especially right now. Especially right now when we have so many opportunities to buy into the negativity, to buy into the news cycle, to buy into these conversations about all the crazy things that you read online. And I would just tell you guys, you know, think about that blueprint. Have you been taught to be afraid of things in a certain way? Have you been taught to think negatively in these situations? Because that every single thing that you think is a choice. It is a choice to feel a certain way as a result of a thought. Because if you feel a certain way about something, research it, look at the other side of it, understand both sides and find yourself somewhere in the middle. Educate yourself. Don't just listen to something and take it at face value. My wife and I just had this conversation about a couple topics yesterday. And I said, you have to think further than just the surface thought. It's really easy when you're in these groups that are on Facebook that have negative stuff. These people love to be in there because this is the way they choose and prefer to think. So if you find yourself in one of those groups, be very careful about staying there. Be very careful about what you consume from that group. Be very careful about how repetitive you allow those thoughts to be in your life, because that will formulate your blueprint is always changing. What you feed yourself, what you decide to feed your mind, whether it be content, conversations, text messages, phone calls, all of those things are going to impact your day and your week. So I hope that this was helpful for you guys this morning. I hope it has challenged the way that you have been thinking. I hope that it will make you pause today as things are being sent your way, from news to notifications to the stock market to all of these things. And the way that you respond to those things is a choice, guys. It's a choice on how you see the world, on how you choose to communicate with others, whether you choose to be encouraging or negative or skeptical or to have hope and faith. Those things are all a choice. And so I hope this conversation this morning will help give you some perspective on how you have a choice in every single one of those situations. So choose to be positive this week, guys. Lift some people up. Last night, I wrote out a handful of cards here. I got 4. I got 2 more addresses this morning. Our company is trying to send out cards, handwritten cards, just thanking medical staff, nurses, doctors, police and firefighters, anybody that's in public service that is helping us through what we're going through right now. Please, by all means, guys, send us their addresses so that we can get a note out to them, hopefully lift their spirits for what they're doing for all of us to protect us, to put us in a better place in this world. So I appreciate you guys tuning in this morning. Please like, share, comment on this stream, and also go over to iTunes, to Spotify, to all the podcast platforms, and click subscribe, guys. We have had a lot of momentum on the podcast side of things, so a lot of people have been downloading. Please leave a comment, leave a review. Trisha left a review that was fantastic. Thank you, Trisha. I appreciate that greatly. If you guys have not downloaded the podcast on iTunes, on Spotify, on Stitcher, anywhere that you listen to, that you choose to listen, please do that. There's 100-something episodes of this podcast. If you guys just recently started listening, there's a lot more content out there, and I would encourage you to go back and listen to it, especially in times like this when we all need an uplifting message, some encouragement, and some positivity. So appreciate you guys tuning in with me this morning, and I will see you again right here, same place, same time tomorrow morning on Morning Perspective. I love you guys. Have a great week.